Good afternoon and welcome to my CULT2 portfolio. My name is Roy Jurgensen and I will take you step by step through my CULT2 internship assignment. In this video I will explain the choices that I've made and the reasons behind them. This will be done separately for each book and its corresponding lesson. Amongst other things, I will explain why I think the chosen approach is appropriate for that particular book, and I will walk you through the lesson ID and elaborate on the lesson's aim, exercise and execution of the lesson in general. Shall we take a look at the first lesson? Before we go to the first lesson, I would like to explain that I created a PowerPoint presentation for each lesson. I used these presentations as a tool for my lesson execution. It helps me to provide a clear and structured lesson. I always include the lesson's aim and instruction in my presentation. Lesson 1. Text as a social construct. Howell's Moving Castle. For this lesson, students are asked to write a character analysis for a main character of Howell's Moving Castle. The focus of this lesson is on what pupils can learn on a social-emotional level by analyzing the personal growth and development of the main characters of Howell's Moving Castle. It can be inspiring for students to learn about real-life problems playing out in an extraordinary world. The storyline, symbolism, and character development of this book provide an excellent basis for this type of lesson. Students can easily connect with the main characters, Howell and Sophie. They both show recognizable traits and personal problems. Pupils are also challenged to use their imagination during this lesson. When students are asked to write a character analysis, they are expected to explain how a character changes and grows. Most major characters go through some kind of significant growth as the story unfolds, often a direct result of dealing with some sort of conflict. Characters grow stronger, fall apart, develop new relationships, or discover new aspects of themselves. Students are able to gain insights based on that character growth and their analysis. That's the heart of this lesson. No pun intended. All three presentations use the same format. First and foremost, I start with the lesson's aim and focus to give pupils a clear idea on what this lesson is about. Next, students have to read the summary in preparation for this lesson. They are also able to watch the movie adaptation by Disney, so they can focus on the characters' development while watching the movie. We will discuss their preparation work briefly before we go into the lesson. The actual assignment is to analyze the personal development of either Howell or Sophie and create and present a mind map of the analysis in plenary to the class. The class will be divided into groups of 3 to 4 pupils. The assignment is done in 3 steps. First, they have to describe the character. 2, they have to describe the development. And 3, they have to conclude about their findings. The presentation shows a few examples to illustrate what I expect from my students in this lesson. So what they can expect, what they have to do for the end result. I will further help them on their way with some thinking questions. How does your character behave and look like? What is your character going through? Are there difficulties and challenges, for example? These questions are meant to start the thinking process of the students. Students will have to present their mind maps to the class and explain their choices. After that, we will reflect on the lesson's aim and focus to see if we achieved the lesson goals. Okay, let's go to the second lesson. Lesson 2, Text as a Context. Angela's Ashes. Texts can teach us something about situations, time periods, and cultures. Books can give us great understanding about the past. They can show us how life and cultures looked like in a different time period. They act as a window into the past. Books can give a more vivid and detailed view on history than textbooks normally can. That's exactly what this lesson is about. The goal of this lesson is to increase the students' knowledge and understanding about what we can learn from books about situations and time periods in comparison to historical texts. Angela's Ashes gives a clear depiction on events that happened in 19th century Ireland. It also shows the values and spirit of the time. It's a very detailed book with lots of background information like setting, year, historical events, and dialect. In this lesson, students have to compare quotes from the book about poverty with a historical Wikipedia text about the same subject and the same time period. Students will experience the difference between texts during this lesson and may provide them with new insights about what books have to offer. Poverty in Northern Ireland. The aim for this lesson is to increase our knowledge and understanding about what we can learn from books about situations and time periods. Texts can teach us something about situations, time periods, and cultures. Books can give us a great understanding about the past. They can show us how life and cultures looked like in a different time period. They act as a window into the past. Books can give us a more vivid and detailed view than historical books normally can. Similar to the first lesson, students have to read a summary of the book. They are also allowed to watch a summary of the book on YouTube. There are a lot of good summaries available. I watched a few of them myself. Next, we will discuss their homework, what they think about the summary, what they think about the book, and if there are any questions before we go to the next step in this lesson. Students are going to compare a number of quotes from the book with a short historical Wikipedia text about poverty in Northern Ireland. The question is which source gives a good picture of poverty and why? And they have to explain this in their own words. This assignment will be done in pairs. Students will work with the person sitting next to them. Step 1. We will read through the Wikipedia text with the entire class. Step 2. We will read through a few quotes from the book. Students will discuss their findings in pairs with a neighbor and answer the question below in pairs. We will discuss their answers in plenary. The question is which source gives you the best possible picture of poverty? Elaborate on your answer and explain why that's the case. I will show the Wikipedia texts and some quotes briefly. You can take a better look in my portfolio. We reflect on the lesson aim and focus to see if we achieved our goal. And that's the second lesson of this internship assignment. And lastly, lesson 3, text as a tool, the absolute true diary of a part-time Indian. This third lesson is all about language skills development. The absolute true diary of a part-time Indian is used as a medium to teach language skills. The goal of this lesson is to become familiar with the meaning of new adjectives from the book and how we can learn these new words. The writer of the Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian uses specific and well-chosen adjectives to describe characters and situations. In this lesson, we will take a closer look at some of those descriptive adjectives, their meaning, and how we can learn such words. 8 different adjectives are discussed and used by the writer to describe characters and events. Understanding adjectives not only increases the language skills of the students, but contribute also to the understanding of the book. Adjectives add meaning to words, they modify and provide nuances to characters and situations. They also help you to better understand the irony used in this book. A better understanding may even lead to an increased reading pleasure. This third lesson is all about language skills. The aim of this lesson is to become familiar with the meaning of new adjectives from the book and how we can learn these new words. Similar to previous lessons, students are required to read a summary of the book or to watch a summary of the book on YouTube. Secondly, they have to briefly explain in their own words what this book is about. We will discuss 8 different adjectives used by the writer to describe characters and/or events. This will be done in 3 steps. Step 1. We try to guess the meaning of the word. Step 2. We look at the definition of the word in the dictionary. And step 3. We look at or write some example sentences. The first 2 steps are done in pairs. The third step is done with the entire class. Students will get 15 minutes for the first 2 steps. We will do a short recap on the grammatical features of adjectives. In the first step, students have to guess the meaning of the words in the context using the example sentences provided here on screen. Students will have to look for the definition in a dictionary in the second step to get a better understanding of the words and how they are used to describe and modify other words. We will make some example sentences in the third step, and like I told earlier, this will be done with the entire class. We will reflect upon this lesson after the third step to see if we improved our understanding of adjectives and how they contribute to the understanding of the book. And that's the end of this internship assignment. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will get into more detail in my portfolio. And I hope it turns out to be all sufficient. Thank you very much.